Surviving in Nigerian business can be very challenging, especially when you are trying to come into an existing business. You know, coming into an existing business can be easy for you, can be easier for you if you are truly bringing something new or something fresh into the existing business. So that boils down to your research and your development. Okay. Now, the first thing that is very, very important that you need to consider when you're trying to come into an existing business, right, is that you need to know the market demand, right? There should actually be a demand for a product or for a service. Okay, so when you're trying to come into a market that is established already, let's say the real estate, let's say the fashion designing, the tailoring, the teaching, or the restaurant business or whatever kind of business that's established already, what are you bringing into the market, right? Whatever you bring in must create a demand. So if you cannot create that demand, you may not be able to have that sustainable customer base. Is very, very important. Another key thing that you need to understand as well is the capital, the funding. The funding of your business has to be like fund A, fund B kind of a thing. The access to your fund was very, very important, just in case the fund A or the fund one doesn't work. How do you sustain that business? Because the sole business rests on the capital, the manpower, and other things. But the funding is very, very important. How do you sustain your business with your capital? So if the first funding doesn't work, the access to the other fund, how do you get them? That's another very, very important thing. Another thing that you need to also understand or should also know or take note when choosing a business in a developing country like Nigeria is the regulatory policies or the government policies that affect naira. Okay, so you can agree with me that inflation in Nigeria is currently hitting like maybe 35 or close to 40%, even if the NBS might not be like straightforward with your calculation or with your analysis concerning the inflation rate. But the chances that the inflation will continue to grow is kind of considerably high, or let me say like medium high kind of a thing, because of the rate at which we are growing. We're not growing in a fast pace. Okay, so you that you're starting a business in an established market or industry, you need to pay attention into the inflation factors of or the inflation that affects the materials or that affects the things that you're going to need in your business. You understand? So if you deal with series of supplies or distribution of so many items coming into you, right? So you need to know the inflation factors of these items, right? Because they kind of play a very big role in your sales, your revenue, your profit margin, and thereabout. So the last thing that I will mention is the competition, right? The competition for every market or for any produce or for any product, there is always a competition that exists. So the competition that exists in an industry, you must leverage on the competition. Leveraging on the competition means you must have an edge. So having an edge in the competition still has to be your own part of analysis or your own part of feasibility studies, because you need to rest, right? You need to rest on the sustainable product or the produce that you're bringing out into the market. Okay, so if you are not really good at analysis or doing feasibility studies on what you want to bring out into the market, your competitors will go far and leave you behind. Okay, so it's very, very important for you to have a competitive advantage over your competitors. You need to know what your competitors are doing and leverage on what they are doing, because what they are doing is what you want to do differently. That's where the differentiation comes in. Okay, you need to know what they are doing and use that as your own opportunity, because if you have your strengths, you have your weaknesses, and your threats and your opportunities are what you can control, but you want to leverage on that. Okay, your threats are your competitors and you want to leverage on your threats, right? You need to make use of what they are doing and what you are bringing into the market. It's going to be what you are doing versus what they had been doing in the market for you to have an edge in the business. As simple as that. Thank you so much. My name is Bash on air. I'm going to bring you more insights, more topics concerning business, investment, See you again.